You're listening to the Perth Property Show, Australia's only weekly property podcast by West Australian experts for West Australian listeners. Catch your latest episode every Monday at 7 a.m.
Good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Perth Property Show. My name's Trent Fleskins, your host as always. Today we are talking about the build process. Geez, it's a really hot topic right now. What's going on? Prices moving. The market is just a real mess in terms of trade availability. But we thought we'd strip it right back down to the basics of getting everyone who's listening to get a really good understanding of what happens from the site supervisor, the construction manager, the construction supervisor, whatever they're called at the specific building company, when they get it in their hands. What actually happens from that point in time all the way through to handover when you get the keys and it's nice and shiny. So it's really quite an interesting process, and I thought I would get my mate Karl Harty-White in. He's a construction supervisor for one of Perth's top building companies to have a chat about exactly how that life is for you. Karl, thanks for coming in.
Cheers, Trent. Thanks for having me, mate. It's a busy time to be alive. A busy time to be a construction manager, that's for sure.
I tell you what, it must be a pretty good feeling to know that if you left your job today, you'd have another one tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, it's comforting, as I'm sure most people would find it. But each industry has its ups and downs, and probably I'd say 16 months to maybe 2 years ago, it was a complete opposite where companies were making people redundant, both staff on site, trades were obviously readily available. So it's a vast contrast from then to now as well.
It is, you're right. It's a massive change. A few years ago, you had probably a lot of people sitting on the sidelines who are probably going back on the tools, who have been promoted to construction supervisor for a while, and then they've lost their job and they're straight back to being a chippy or a brickie because there just aren't that many jobs out available. Now, I guess a lot of them are getting a promotion again. Yeah,
absolutely. And most people want consistency. They want that. They know where their work's coming from. They know that they've got work ahead of them, not just for a couple of weeks, months, but years. They want that loyalty, and when the work's just not there, a lot of guys had to go work away or moved over east, for more consistent money, basically. So a lot of good people have actually left the industry and slowly coming back, but you probably won't get them all back like you did once before.
Do you reckon, given the change in trade rates, which we'll talk about in the future, possibly some of the guys you're hiring are getting paid more than you right now?
Oh, easily.
Isn't that a bit crazy? Does it make you want to go back on the tools?
Nah. I'm a cabinet maker by trade and I love my craft, but there's a reason I left it, and most people want progression. I wanted progression, but to go back to being a cabinet maker probably would take me back financially, but definitely not on this 7-figure wage that most people think supervisors and that are on. Drive around, have a coffee and have a yarn all day, and that's good money. But
hey, look, to be a construction manager is a lot of responsibility. It takes a few years to get up to that level. So will you be able to give us a little bit of an example as to your progression from when you started? What does it take to get up to that construction manager, construction supervisor level, whether you're a chippy or a brickie or a plumber? How does it work? Do you need to have a license? Let's explain it to everyone so they know really how much work you've put in to get to where you are today.
Yeah, so honestly, it's not an extremely hard avenue to go down. It's extremely challenging and a lot to learn once you get into it. So I finished my apprenticeship as a cabinet maker. I wanted to get somewhere financially, and I wasn't doing so where I was. So I went and worked away in the mines like most people do. Went and worked underground for 2 years, bought a house, travelled a lot. There is select companies in the industry, not so many now, but back in the boom around 2015, 16, around that time, that will give people a traineeship so long as you got a trade. And there's main trades, usually cabinet makers, carpenters, the real finesse trades. There's not many plumbing supervisors or sparkies out there that do this job.
Why?
They exist, but there's not as much of a broad knowledge of building as what you get with specific trades, especially most of them you speak to are either brickie, chippy or cabinet makers, because they just have a broader knowledge and they have a finer detail. So
it's all about the finished product, isn't it?
Exactly right. So if you can get someone that's already got an eye, you can generally teach them the rest or adapt. So
okay, so you spent a few years as a cabinet maker. Yep. Figured that you wanted to progress your career in the industry, and then what happened?
So I applied for a traineeship with another builder, Perth, which I got. Had a few interviews, and obviously they liked me, presented my case, got the job, and then quite literally you go with the supervisor. You get to a bit of, basically shown the ropes, what you got to do, then you get around. And most people don't realize you don't need to be some engineer. You don't need to have all these degrees. You do need to have knowledge, and you do need to be able to basically sink or swim and be able to swim. So you learn as you go. because there's certain things that you can only teach by doing.
Well, it's an experience-based job, isn't it? At the end of the day, your job is now turned into a project management job, right?
Exactly.
You have to subcontract all the trades that build this thing.
Yeah, exactly
So
right.
do you need a license to do your job?
No, not to do my job. It would be handy, obviously, or if I eventually wanted to go and build my own homes or do my own business, then yes, you would. But to be an actual just supervisor like me, no, it's not essential anyway.
Okay, so the license sits above you
Yeah,
in the business, and then you're essentially an agent of that license, project managing
Correct.
all the trades on behalf of the license. The license then holds the warranty and the risk.
yeah, correct, exactly. So I think a lot of people don't know, as a site supervisor, we are still responsible for the safety, even more so now. Yeah, I can come to site and say, Trent, you got to put your boots on, and you've had thongs on. If I leave and you cut your foot off, I'm responsible for that. That still falls onto me because I'm in control of that site. So even though I work for the builder, I still answer for those things. And again, that's what a lot of people don't understand is we answer and are in control of that site. So we answer for the whole lot.
Okay, so now we know essentially who we're talking about here. It's the construction supervisor is that trade that has moved into more of a project management role after years of experience being a part of the building process. You understand how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You've had your time underneath another building supervisor to get to that point where you can run it yourself. Then we get to a point where obviously us as a client have got our plans through DA. We've got our finance. We've got all the working drawings pushed through. At what point do you get involved, Karl?
There's two different ways. Some builders will do it where the supervisor will take over from the site work. So when you start doing all the site works to get a slab down, to get all your drains in, get all your retaining walls up or things like that, pull walls down where necessary. But certain builders like the builder I work for, once we have a subfloor guy, so he does all of that from basically when your contract's ready to go to site up until your slab goes down. Once your slab goes down and you're ready to start brickwork, then we take over.
Okay.
So then the job gets transferred to us. We go there, make sure your drains and soak wells are in, ready to go, get the site leveled off, ready for brick load, and then from there to literally when you get your keys is where your main man.
So in that, you've covered a lot of jobs straight away in that space. We've got all the prelays happening. So this is the stuff before the slab goes down. And that's something that a lot of clients, I think, struggle with sometimes is they think, well, I've got my finance. We're going to site. Slab should be down next week.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that happens before a slab going down, right?
Exactly right.
You spoke about before, obviously, stormwater has to go in. This is your big soak wells that would sit underneath the paving normally. And if it's a slopey site, you'd have to put your retaining in first too. So there's a few contractors you're having to schedule in and get going there with their time frames. Your plumber, obviously, getting that stuff going through. And then obviously you getting your guy with the bobcat out to get the site ready before the concrete goes down, right?
Yeah, well, quite literally, you've got all of those things. So you get your bobcat after you slab to prep it for the bricks, but like you say, I've got a lot of my areas more so inner existing areas. So like your Belmont, Cloverdales, St. James, Eastwick Park, all the older areas. So the houses are house behind houses. So they got to get subdivided, all the fencing changed. If they're on hills, like you say, you got to have fencing removed, retaining put in to control the level from one site to the next.
Dealing with neighbours, getting consent forms.
I don't personally deal with that stuff. Our slab floor guy does, but the documents, even just having to liaise between our client and 3 other neighbours around is not easy, and
keeping them happy along the way as well.
Hats off to those guys. One, you got to satisfy our client, but then B, satisfy and work in with their neighbours, and not everyone's easy to get along with. I can guarantee you that.
So best case scenario, how long does it normally take from when that job has gotten loaded to a point of let's get scheduling to actually getting a slab down? What's the normal time frame?
But the bigger blocks, you can be looking, sometimes 2 months. Can depend on approvals as well. Sometimes something won't work on site, needs to be changed, has to be plans reissued, reapproved. So
then you've got to order the concrete truck.
Then you got the concrete. Then and again, even things now that most people aren't factoring is there's shortage of concrete. There's hundreds of builders trying to put down thousands of slabs all at the same time, and it's not the fact of the builder didn't book my slab in. It's just the manufacturers can only produce so much concrete a day. They can only buy so much of the material that makes their concrete a day.
There's only so many mixing trucks.
Exactly. There's only so many, and old mate Joe has a big weekend, needs to have Monday off. That's one less truck that can go do a slab. Then that slab needs to get pushed and so on. You multiply that across all the builders, across all the areas, all the owner builders, and it's a big system there with a lot of wheels that each contributes to the next.
Now, I guess the most controversial part of the build that's happening right now, which we'll talk about later on, is the bricklaying. We've got a lot of clients ourselves, so we'll get a slab down, but it could take 2-3 months now before a bricky team actually gets to site because they're so busy and they're charging through the nose right now, whereas only a year ago, they were at site 2 weeks after.
Yeah, mate, you bang on. There was a period probably earlier last year, back into the year before in 2019, where from slab down to handover, I could get houses, a pretty standard house, anywhere from 20 to 25 weeks from slab down to handover. Now, like you say, you're looking at anywhere from 10 to 16 weeks or so for a bricklayer, and that's across the industry. Yeah, it's just a bottleneck. You've got all this volume of work, but only so many trades to do it. The same point, it's all well and good for people to jump up and down and say, yeah, we want a bricklayer, we got to get it built, but there's still quality you got to adhere to. There's still building regulations you got to adhere to, and there's no point getting a guy down the road with a wheelbarrow that can, a mixer that can do cement and chuck a brick on top of each other. There's a lot more to it, so it's fickle. And like you say, because there's so much work, trades have the ability to dictate more so what they want to get paid and what they're prepared to work for, where they're prepared to work, the type of job they're prepared to do. Obviously, you got 2 stories, you got duplexes, you got multi-house developments, you got 0-lot boundary houses. So, and
I think I think what we'll do is we'll make an episode about that, and we'll talk about that in the future. All right, so brickies are getting there. We've got termite protection. How does that work, and when does that happen?
Yep, so you got your termite protection, usually with your barrier anywhere from 0 to 200 mil from your boundary. So your garage walls, most of the time, you get your termite barrier in. Once they get up to your 0 course, then you brick up from there.
So is that the mesh you see?
It's the slab? Generally the green blanket, like termite blanket. If you've got a cavity wall that's on your boundary as well, then you usually get your granules and that in as well. You can also upgrade and get your termi mesh. So it's like a mesh that literally you get your brickwork all the way around your slab to 0, same height as your slab. Then a mesh goes all the way around, so they can't actually get up in your cavity. That's not industry standard. It's more so an upgrade, so people pay for it just as a upper level of protection, basically. So, and then with your final protection barrier, you get a spray under your garage as well before that gets poured. And then once the site's finished, we're complete with our site works, the exterior, we get the same company back, and they would generally do a perimeter treatment as well. So stick a rod in the ground, injects the chemical all the way around the site, and you'll get a warranty for that, as well as your garage wall treatment and your pre-slab treatment.
Once you've got the termite protection in, you've got your bricks up to what we call plate height. Want to explain what that means, and then what happens after that?
Yeah, for sure. So once you've got your brickwork up to plate height, that's when your bricklayer is complete. So plate is the top of the brickwork, and from there your timber will kick off. Your roof frame kicks off from there. So the timber batten that the chippies actually go around and put on top of the brickwork is called your plate. So that's where you get your phrase, your plate height. So yeah, you hit plate height, generally get your site cleaned up, get all your timber loaded, your steels, everything for your roof frame. Then your chippy will come along, he'll build your roof frame. Your standard, say, 250 square metre house, average team will take about a week. If you work it off about a week, you can generally get that done with not too many drums. Then he'll finish. Then you generally will get your roof plumbers in to do your guttering, or your electrician for your electrical tubing, chasing, your plumber in for your gas and water tubing in all your walls and your cavities throughout. Then you'll get your roof cover on, and then generally from roof cover, you don't have too many other delays. Your rain can affect the outside, but you can generally then crack on in the inside, your plastering or dry lining, ceilings, and so on and so forth.
What we've mentioned, a few of these buzzwords here, we've spoken about the slab being down. Slab down, that's a progress payment that you'll pay as a client. Then we'll have plate height, that's another progress payment milestone. And then you mentioned roof cover. So that's the third progress payment we get to out of generally the 5 progress payments. So once it's roof cover, the next milestone we're looking to get to is lockup. So what happens between those two?
Correct. So yeah, from roof cover to lockup, you will then go, depending, a lot of builders like the one I work for, if you're doing painting in the contract through us, we'll dry line. We have the same company do the whole lot. So they will, for example, just float and set. So you come in, you get your dry line or your float, then you'll get your white set. Yep, as a plasterer. Then you'll get your gyprock team in to do your ceilings. Then the plasterer back to do the white set, or sometimes they'll do it before the ceilings, depending, each company does it, that's a little bit different. And then once you got your set and that done, then you get your windows in, or your glazing, and generally your glazing and your lockup, basically the same time, the same week. And then that's when you hit lockup. So all your doors are in, your shelving's in, all your glazings in, and you from there, as most clients will probably be aware and aren't familiar with or don't like, is that they can't just get into the house.
And that's what I was going to
and
say. That's
roam around.
the first time when you can't have a sneaky look.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's important though, because it's about the security of the site from then on. Because after that, you start getting some expensive gear going in.
Yeah, exactly. You know, even just little things like shelving. Sometimes a trade might leave some hardware that he needs there for the overnight to come back the next day. You know, it's easy to steal. And then again, what most people don't realize is the cost of that then goes back to the builder. So, and then this is probably something we could talk about another time, but owner supplied goods. So, you know, just say owner supplied bath and basins and things like that. If they get dropped to site, that's what we say. We take no responsibility for them, because if they were to get stolen, that's a lot of money that the builder just wears. We can't insurance claim $500, $400. So that's quite literally coming out of the bottom line of the builders.
Yeah, and every builder has a bit of that they wear every year, isn't it? So
Yeah.
a lot of theft, actually, to most people's surprise. A lot of stuff gets stolen, doesn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable amounts. Even just damage.
What's some of the weirdest stuff you've seen going missing?
So years ago, I actually went to Europe over the Christmas holidays, and I come back and I had this home in Harrisdale ready to PCI just before, do the handover meeting just before Christmas. And the clients had to go back to India for family reasons, all good. So I've come back from Europe, going around the house just to make sure it was ready to go, and went to turn the aircon on, and the aircon didn't turn on. I was like, oh, what's going on here? Maybe the power's out. No, lights are all on. Anyway, done, fault find, gone outside, and the unit on the roof had been stolen.
Wow.
And there's just a big hole in the roof with roof tiles poured out around it.
And that's the builder has to wear that, right?
The builder wears that.
Yeah. And that's thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So with higher cost things, there are avenues we can do to try and help, but most of the time it's not super high amounts. It'll be smashed windows, things like that. That's probably a more extreme version. Or
normally it's
stolen
kids
hot water unit.
throwing rocks at windows.
So like another builder down the road from some of my sites the other week was on the main road in Belmont, and set of 3 units, and the windows were smashed repeatedly, because I drive past and see new windows put in and smashed again. Again, it's just the builder. We can't pass that on to you. Obviously, once it's in construction, you prices, everything's fixed. So
very frustrating, it must be, especially for the smaller builders where every dollar counts. Yeah,
absolutely. It's these guys that estimating, scheduling, and pricing his jobs a lot closer than what a bigger builder would. It'd be painful. Not to mention frustrating. No one wants to. It's like mopping the floor and then someone works in with dirty boots. You got to do it all over again.
Yep.
It's trades find it frustrating. We find it frustrating. All the emails. Then you got the materials.
Talking about that traffic of people, especially when you're in this stage, how many trades do you reckon you'd have on site at a time, and how many could you have? One point of frustration a lot of our clients have, including me, is that there's a perception that the builder could be going a lot faster than they are, because you see shows like The Block where you've got 5 or 6, 7, 8 trades on at the same time. They seem to be getting it done. Might not be the safest thing in the world, but it's happening. You can get it done, and generally you'll see maybe one team at a site per day, and a lot of days no teams at all. And that can be really frustrating for a client. Do you have any commentary on how well it can be in the best of times, and what generally the accepted number of sub-years at a time would be?
Again, I love The Block. Just love Scotty. He goes right, but mate, that place to work on that. I watched that show and I think I would have a nervous breakdown on there. There's so much going on, and there's so much that you don't see behind the scenes as well. Obviously, their safety and compliance would have to be through the roof for their insurances and whatnot. But a lot of the time, there's just a process to the way you do things. So you got to get your brickwork finished first. Once you got that done, then you can get your site ready for the timber. You can't have a bobcat there while you got your bricklayers out the front mixing mud and trying to make their piles. There's a process to everything to try and... It's not even to make life easier for trades. It's safety. You got to be safe these days. If someone falls backwards on a brick and hurts themselves badly, it's costly to them as well as us, and it just isn't what you want. You want everyone to go home safe. So as long as it's safe, you can have quite a number of trades on site. But things like guys working above other guys, you don't want someone working around on the ground, a plumber, for example, then you got to chip above him with a nail gun. And quite often guys will work in together, they'll get along, it's no drama, but you do need to draw a line between what's safe as well.
Things like the cabinet maker and the tiler, can they not be there at the same time?
Again, there's process. So your cabinets go in, then you get your tile screed done. So there's not really much point him being there. Again, the tiler doesn't get paid multiple trips. He gets paid there to go do his job. So just say he lives in Hammond Park and he's driving up to Midland to do a job. if he's got to go there 4 times, that's a lot of his time.
He's probably going to charge you more.
He wants to go there when the cabinets are in, stands there, bricks are there, so he can just do his screed, waterproofed, then tile.
So there are ways possibly to make this faster, but most of them are quite impractical.
Yeah, and it's just not efficient. It's not so much not efficient for the builder, but it's just not efficient for the trades. It's not cost-wise. It's just not that viable. Yeah. So you can, again, like you say, you can have painters on site. You can have flooring guys on site. You can have a fixing carpenter doing some shelving on site while your tiler's there. You can have certain trades as long as it's safe and they're not in each other's way. But the biggest things, you can't really do too much. And you don't want to do things too early either, because like your texture coating, if you get your texture coating on exterior, generally your front elevations for
your render,
your color coat, or whether it's painted render or your texture coat, if you get it done too early, it just gets damaged. Especially lighter colors just get trampled with mud, trampled with dirt, and again, then that comes back to the builder to either have to recoat it or touch it up, whatever it might be. So then it's just not efficient to do it that early.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of these processes are based on a lot of experience of things going wrong, and it's fine-tuned to a point of generally practicality and de-risking it. Probably not 100%, it's probably sitting at 80% of what you could do, but that extra 20% really is just building in a lot of really practical, pragmatic outcomes for people.
Yeah.
Which is probably that 20% that most people don't really understand the outcomes, the what-ifs, and then they get frustrated because they see it. In reality, it could happen, but it probably shouldn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for the client, and I absolutely see it from their point of view as well, is that's their center of their universe. That's that's
every day
their
is
home.
money as well.
Exactly. And I hear it almost daily that my wife's pregnant, we're renting and have a couple kids, whatever. Everyone's got different circumstances, but doesn't help the situation we're in. At the end of the day, there's a job to be done. It's got to be done right. Not only right, it's got to be done to standard. It's got to be done quickly, but still efficiently. And trades have other jobs as well,
and that's what I was going to say.
We can't just have them sitting on hand like the block.
Yeah.
For example, those guys are
they're on call.
It's a TV show, so they that's going to trump any other work that they've got going on.
Yeah, and as a construction supervisor, you can do your best, but at the end of the day, you are beholden to the availability of the subbies you've got. How do you select your trades? Do you have a little black book personally that you build up over time of guys that have done good jobs and are reliable? Do you get told by your boss who your approved people are and their rates so that you don't go and hire someone that's too expensive? Does that then restrict you in terms of wanting to move faster because but unfortunately a whole bunch of blokes just aren't available? How practically does it work for you, and what other restrictions do you have to be able to move things forward?
That's quite a grey area, because at nearly every single builder there will be certain contractors that are pre-contracted, so there's already a business agreement with most of them will be electricians, plumbers. Certain companies will own plastering teams or have in-house teams, like gyprock companies
roofing
as well. Yeah, it's the same thing. There's quite a lot of ones that are just out of our control. That's who you use, and you need to work in with them as best as you can. So the main ones that the supervisor will have is your bricklayers, roof carpenters, sometimes roof sheeters, depending. A lot of builders will use a one-stop shop for all their roof covers and roof plumbing. Your fixing carpenters, sometimes plasterers, tilers. Again, there's not too many more. Pavers, painters.
Fencing.
You can. But again, I know a lot of builders that just have the one contractor preferred. They're reliable.
Landscapers.
Yeah, landscapers. And again, we don't do a huge amount. I've done a few display homes. Well, I've done quite a number for different builders, but you generally have your main contract because they're reliable. You can vouch for the work. You've seen it. And again, with the trades, if I need a new trade, I'll generally ring one of the guys I work with and go, hey, mate, have you got a tiler? My guys are booked out. And I trust their judgment. See, they've been doing the job quite a while as well. You trust the judgment of other people you work with. And if you really need to, or you get a new trade, you want to try a new guy, fail safe, go check his work.
Because the buck stops with you at the end of the day, doesn't it?
Yeah, if that works, if that works
Shoddy.
poor, it might not always agree with the client. So I've had some clients that aren't satisfied, and you will never make everyone happy. But there's some work where, it's crap, and I'll walk in and go, that's shit.
Do it again.
Put that tiles on an angle, or that bit above the door frame, it's crap. Scrape it off. Do it properly. Spend a bit of time. So again, if you look at how much physical human labor goes into building a house, to expect perfect, the old phrase you get, would you buy a Lamborghini with a scratch on it? It's made with a machine that's to 1,000th of a millimeter.
Yeah.
a home, a brick is laid by hand. The brick itself is not 1/100th of a millimeter square and straight. So you got to be reasonable as well, but at the same time expect good quality.
Yeah,
and
everyone's best effort.
yeah, and I expect what I build is I'd expect in my home. So I don't go there and go, I expect perfection. I expect what I would have, what I would be happy
Yeah, the sniff
to
test.
pay for myself.
So we're at lockup, and right now the house looks like a pretty ugly exterior with your maxi bricks haven't been rendered probably. Your windows haven't got any treatments. There's no landscaping. It's just a sand pit. And inside it's just a big concrete jungle. That's where it is at lockup, right? What happens next?
So this is the point where things can be done on the outside. So generally you get your cabinetry in. So after your painter, he comes in, undercoats everything. So you're not getting an undercoat on cabinets and tiles and all that. He gets all of his undercoating done. Then you would start getting your plumber in. So we get all the sandy plumbing done. So the bath install or fixtures that need to be in for cabinetry. Then your cabinetry goes in. Then your tiler, he'll come in, do the screed, get it all level. Then that's generally when you have your meeting with your supervisor on site or a manager on site, if, depending who it is. Generally when your waterproofing's done. So you're ready to tile, but you'll have a tile meeting / lockup meeting where you go through with the supervisor and tiler, confirm all your tile selections, colours, layout. Some tiles have a linear, so you want to make sure the tiles are going a certain way to match the timber flooring in the living room, things like that. But on the outside, then you've got, obviously your render, your external render. Then you've got your colour coat that goes on that as well, which is your texture. Then you get your garage hard stand put down. The garage door gets measured. Yeah, there's a whole heap of things from there.
A lot of stuff happening at that point in time.
Exactly
but this is where it really transformed from a house to a home.
Exactly. But again, a lot of things that clients won't see done. They won't know that someone's come and measured the garage door. They won't know that someone's come and measured for the blinds. They won't know that, certain things are being done, small things, but it's part of the process. So again, I've seen jobs blow out, and I'm sure you've probably seen jobs blow out and take a long time, but there are factors to it. It's not just because the old mate's sitting at home, can't be bothered. There are always factors. Again, a job I've had this week, baths on back order for 3 weeks. So I can't complete the tiling in the bathroom because of that, which means I can't then get the plumber back to fit off all the tapware. And again, it compounds. So yeah, all I always say to clients is try and be just reasonable and just, a little bit patient if you can be, because there's often a lot of factors that you'll never know about that contribute to things.
I guess you've seen a lot of colour choices and tile choices where you laugh and go, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But essentially you double check it with the clients and they're happy. And
yeah, absolutely. I've had some very interesting cabinetry colours, blues with green tiles, and I've had to stand back and go, let me just double check that.
This can't be right.
Yeah, or same thing, laminate bench tops and all your cabinetry underneath, all the same colour. So it's just a big blur. Or they'll spend a lot of money on one particular thing in the house and then check that and go, it's quite a cheaper thing compared to that. And again, you just double check the addenda. Even if the addenda says it, sometimes I find personally, I try to be on the front foot. So if I think it's just not right, just doesn't hurt to ask a question. Doesn't hurt to go back to you and go, hey Trent, you sure that's the bath you chose or that's the tile? And you
it's
go,
a lot cheaper to fix this problem now than afterwards.
Exactly. And you go, oh no, that's not the tile I selected. Let's hang on, let me speak to my wife. Let's reselect. That's not exactly what we wanted. It doesn't hurt to ask a question. And like I say to clients, if you see something, don't feel bad. Even if it's what you perceive as a dumb question, it's just you don't know. You could be a dentist and something that you think's easy, I have no idea about. So just ask the question.
I think there's a lot of situations there where the builder will just throw it down and say, well, didn't ask the question. This is what you ordered a year and a half ago. And it's just way out of spec now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that happens a lot with the project builders. They don't have that time and love and that personal touch. But I think when you do have those supervisors who do take it seriously and go, look, guys, just start making sure, this is the one you wanted.
Yeah.
If you didn't, we can swap it now. I think that makes so much of a difference.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's not too late. And again, it can affect so many different things. So I call you and say, hey, you sure this is exactly what you want? Yep, good. That's what we've discussed. Okay. I might not like it, but at the end of the day, it's your home. And again, that's so many people go, oh, what do you think? I'm like, doesn't matter what I think. It's your home. You've got to live here, not me.
Yep.
I'll build it to what I would accept. But again, everyone's different, and I've been taught to be proactive, not reactive. So rather than react to a situation, generally it's going to cost more, take longer to fix, or more hassle to overcome. You identify, so a lot of the times I've overcome a situation with a phone call.
Next step after all this has been done, so the paint, tiles, cabinet, electrician, everyone's done their work, it really starts to pretty much look like a done job. Generally, per house, this should take, if in a single house, 8 to 9 months right now. If it's a 2-story house, could be a year, could be more.
Probably in excess of a year at the moment, yeah.
Yep. So that once we got to that stage, we're at practical completion. What does that mean?
So practical completion is, like the word suggests, is when the home's practically complete and we're prepared to present it to you. There is a process to this, so you do a first inspection or a first walkthrough, then a second. The first is quite literally meant to be where you walk through, we'll go through the home with you, show you the windows, the mechanisms, show you the ovens and the drawers, and go through the whole lot.
What we're doing here is making sure that everything works.
Correct, yeah.
And that everything's schmick.
Yep. And generally it'll be how we're going to hand the home over to you. So everything that's in your contract that, as per your addenda and plans and contract that you've paid for is what we've delivered. Generally, the idea of the first and second inspection is to identify any cosmetic issues or anything that might need to be touched up more or improved on or you're not happy with. It's generally the finer things right at that last point that you sort out. Then we meet again, show you what's been done based on the first inspection.
Make sure it's all been done.
Yeah, generally it's a seamless process, and then that's where you can then go to the office, get your keys, and
pay your last bill.
Yep.
And then you get your keys, and then that's handover.
Yeah, exactly. And then so key handover is then when you and I would finish on site. From there, there's a grace period where if you have any issues that might come up, I'll still deal with it. But then after that, you would generally go to a maintenance department who will then take care of your warranties and any issues that might come up after that.
And that's different per builder, right?
Each builder has
with
their
the
own.
HIA is about 6 years.
Yep.
But some builders will give 20, 25 years, won't they?
Yeah. And again, it's like lifetime structural warranties is getting far more common. There's some builders where I'm aware of now that if you sell the home, the warranty is transferred with that sale. I don't know how many of them are out there, but that is a big factor for a lot of people to build a home, is to know that, well, that gets transferred. That's a pretty big thing. So you're not buying a home and it's just like anything that happens wrong with it is on you.
Carl, this has been a fantastic chat, working for half an hour from start to finish, appreciating the role of a construction supervisor, but then also appreciating the process and what you do in your job every day. And clearly you're passionate about it. You clearly know your stuff. So thank you so much for coming in. I reckon we'll have another chat about what's going on right now in Perth in 2021, what really makes your life tough, what's changed. We might also talk about the practical completion inspection and how to, as a client, as an owner, how to really get the most out of that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Again, the more you know, the more education you have, the more it's going to be in your favour. And again, it's not a hugely overly complex situation, but preparation is everything. Organisation, preparation is key.
Karl Harty-White, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate you coming in. To all those builders out there, make sure you remember this guy's name. You'll want him.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Perth Property Show. If you've only just joined the conversation, you can catch up by heading over to our website, perthpropertyshow.com.au, subscribing to the podcast, or joining our Facebook page. Don't forget to tune in next Monday at 7 a.m. for more expert insights, local analysis, and suburb spotlights. Happy hunting!